Hey guys, so homes in Vancouver are sitting on the market almost 10 days longer than Portland right now, and that gap is exactly why your negotiating strategy needs to change depending on which side of the river that you're buying on. Welcome,
Hmm.
everyone. Welcome back to Venture with Joe and Cody. I'm Joe Skipper, the owner of Skipper Realty Group, brokered by eXp Realty, and that's Cody Wilhelm with Residential Mortgage.
What's
What
up?
is up, my man?
How we doing? How we doing?
Good, good. I'm excited another week of our lovely podcast. I'm not sick of it
Absolutely.
yet. You know, it's been a long time and I still don't get sick of our podcast, which is good. I know that probably other people have moved on, but you and I have
Yeah,
stayed together, so that's good.
we're we're hanging on strong.
Yes,
If
yes,
anything, it's the podcast relationship is strengthened.
yes.
We've got
It's for
structure.
better or
We've
for
got
worse, you know? We've
yeah,
got structure now. We've got,
yeah.
we're going to stay, we're going to stay on track, you know, you and I. I just
Well,
don't like. I kind of like the beginning though, kind of doing our little how's everything going. Our
yes,
structure timeline wants us to kind of get right into things, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's what happens when you gotta please the big bosses.
Yes, we are going to get into our deeper dive today. Later in the show is going to be buyer leverage is back, according to me and probably
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
I think it's been back for a while, but we're going to kind of take a deeper dive into that and what that means for both buyers and sellers in this market. Anything before we get started, man? Anything you want to say? Anything fun you want to tell me? Anything? I'm
Oh
not.
yes.
I'm not trying to like get you to admit to something. I just am asking. Like that sounded very like anything you want to say, Cody?
Anything
Anything
that
you
you'd
want to
like
tell
to
me?
admit to yeah, come clean with here?
You don't need to admit anything
No,
right
I
now.
mean it's yeah. The market's been steady, normal.
Yeah.
We're easing back into school. Summer is officially like on
On the
wrap up
edge, man.
mode. So
Yeah.
like mentally my mind is kind of shifting to back to more of a routine and
Yeah.
and early morning timelines as opposed to, summertime gets a little loose.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. It does.
I
Yeah.
got my work, but from the kids' standpoint, I'm taking Eli to work 3 days a week this
Oh,
summer, so
nice.
that's been really good for him. But outside of that, it's kind of nice because it starts the morning out a little slow.
Yeah.
So now, next week we'll jump back into running kids around, and
Yeah, because you guys are next week. Do we start next week? I can't remember.
I think we
I
start on
should
the.
know that. I think we
I
do
want to say we
start
start
on
on the
Monday.
first.
I think we
Yeah, we
start
start
Monday,
on
right?
Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. Maybe we do start Tuesday. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right. That's crazy. I was kept
I
thinking it
know.
was like a couple weeks still, but it's not.
Yep, same. But
We've
here
had
we
the
are.
same thing. Football is like, you know, in full force. So we're going, you know, last week we went for 5 days practices. This week we have the 4 day practices, and we have our
Uh
jamboree
huh.
this weekend.
Oh, nice.
So just like that 30-minute, you know, kind of
Yeah,
uh 30
play
minutes
play a handful
games,
of
just kind of get
teams.
everyone warmed up. Yeah, play a couple teams where I think we're playing Westland and I don't know the other one, but
Okay.
yeah, so we got that coming up. The boys are good. I think we're going to be good this year. I think
Uh
it's
huh.
just crazy seeing how big these kids are now.
Oh man.
We've
Yeah.
talked about this before. It's like I just was not that developed at 13. Like these
Yeah.
kids are like actual beasts at
Well, Rory
13.
looks like
So
he's pretty good size compared to because
yeah,
I watched that video that you had from the All-Star game,
yeah, yeah,
and he looked like he was a pretty tall compared to some of the other kids out there.
yeah. Um, he he's probably he's probably one of the taller kids on the team. So
Hmm.
there's a few other kids that are like studs at at the game, and they're all kind of the same size. I think that
Yeah.
this is just the natural point of development for some of them, and some of them haven't
Yeah.
yet, and so they'll all kind of even out in the next couple years. But
Uh
yeah,
huh.
we got that going on. I got ready for Cora's practices next week. She's got soccer practice. I coach them as well. So yeah, we're
Hmm.
back in a routine.
Coach
Back in a
Coach
routine.
Skipper
Coach
all
Skip,
across the
I'm
board.
Coach Bananas to the girls. So
Coach
I don't know how
Bananas.
I got Coach Bananas, but that's
Okay.
what they call me on and off the field, Coach
Oh,
Bananas.
so
So
you
yeah,
need to get some of those banana squish
I know the
toys.
squishies. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. I need to get the. I think Cora might have a banana. I think.
Okay.
Anyways, those things are weird. I
Yeah.
don't like them. And you know what they do now is Cora doesn't like that. It's now trendy to not pop them, but basically take the air out of them, so the form
Oh,
doesn't stay. They're more texturally like
okay.
cool, but it it's not the form anymore. It's just a
Yeah.
blob. And I'm like,
Right.
it's not even cool. She's like, but
How do you do
it
that then?
feels
You poke like a
better.
little hole in
I
it
don't
and then
know. I
glue
haven't
it?
even looked at it, but they have, they do it. I don't know how they do it, but yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. I
Well,
love
let's
it.
get started. Let's get on to Cody's stats and trends. What do we got there in the mortgage lending world, my man?
Well, we have seen a slight, teeny tiny adjustment. They always have to make some type of headline for whether rates have gone up or down
Oh
because
yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
fun to say that they haven't changed. Um,
So we get into the
so
very minute details of what goes up and
teeny,
down. Like
yes, yeah.
that
Overall,
no
pretty
buyer would
flat.
ever, yeah, no buyer is ever going to care. But
No, no. Overall, pretty flat from last week. Slight improvement. I know we talked about it a little bit on our live segment, but we are starting to see headlines of maybe a little bit more intervention from the Treasury on potentially buying like the 10-year mortgage-backed securities, the 10-year Treasury stuff, which is what drives primarily the mortgage rate market. So if we see some of that happen, we could see rates come down a little bit.
yeah,
They were investing more, which is a pretty big number, but in the big picture, not really. And it did absolutely nothing for the market. And we saw it happen, earlier when they were going to be buying quite a bit more. And I think it gave a little bit of a bump. But in order for the market, the rate market, to really make an improvement, there has to be more buying of the 10-year Treasury.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so when the rest of the investors and people are not purchasing it, it's only going to go so far because as soon as they start to sell it off, well, now you're going back up. So
yeah,
we're sitting currently at 6.72 as a 30-year fixed average, which is not where we'd like to be, but it's where we're at. It's where we've been. Nothing's really changed too much. The mortgage applications overall dipped by 0.4% last week. And, you never really know what that could be from. It's
yeah,
probably more than likely into summer. People start to get back into school. That's usually the big assumption, is that people tend to get into it more in the spring and summer. And then as that winds down, it'll dip. Usually when we see an improvement in rates, it'll improve. But they're not spiking. Like the stability is kind of letting everything just play out the way that it is. So
yeah, yeah,
nothing really that's been too crazy. The most likely scenario is that rates are holding near current levels through the rest of 2026. That's what this article says, which I tend to agree on. I don't see that there's going to be a whole lot. Maybe if the war kind of settles back down,
yeah,
we could
yeah,
see some improvement. If the government essentially starts to jump back in, kind of like what they did with COVID, where they start purchasing more and more of these mortgage-backed securities, then we could see some improvements. But without any intervention or big changes, I'd say we're probably going to be sitting here through the rest of the year. So
yeah.
that is
Which I
my.
don't know. I don't like the government getting involved in
I
it.
know.
I think the market needs to dictate more or less what it is. I get that there has to be some intervention in the event that something happens drastically, but I just think it's not, I just hate like faking that everything's perfect, and I think the
I know.
government tends to do that, is like throw money at a problem until everyone just feels good.
Yeah.
But does that solve anything long term? Like you said, like you can buy stuff. It's just until they sell it, it's like it's
Yeah.
the exact same. So I don't know.
Exactly.
I just don't think that's very healthy. I get that the affordability is an issue, and but we are starting to see, which we'll get into the deep dive, but we're just starting to see a lot more negotiation to help that be fixed. Yes, it's 6.7% rate right now, but a lot of listings are allowing a rate buy down. Lenders are offering credits, all sorts of things to kind of get the rate to what everyone thinks it should be, because it ultimately is, it's 6.7, but you can buy down the rate to a certain amount.
Sure.
If it's just sitting in the fives, then you're buying down to the fours, which is great. But it's just like, if the governments are artificially doing that, it's not going to help down the road. So, anyways,
Yep.
we'll get into it in a deeper dive. But yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. What about you? What's your market watch all about?
Oh man. Well, it's just the median sales price is pretty flat in the Portland metro area, staying at 555K year over
favorite
year. Is it really?
5 is my favorite number. So
Five's my favorite
555,
number.
even better.
Isn't
Really?
that weird? Wow.
Wow. Do
I
you know
had no
why it's your
idea.
favorite number? Like, can you trace it? I can't trace mine back to anything.
I
I just
can't
always
trace it
have
back. It
liked number
probably
5.
was during my developmental years of like, when I got good at a sport that like I was like I got that number and I'm just like
Yeah.
that's my number.
Yeah.
I don't think there was
It was
anything
given
that
to you and you're like, this is
yeah.
now my favorite number.
Yeah, and it was at a time
Uh-huh.
where I was like, okay, well that's like, at a certain age you start to like care about that.
Yeah.
And I think that was just what happened like at that age.
Love it.
5. Anyways.
Yep.
Um, days on market dropped to 54 days. That's the fastest pace of 2026 so far. So, yeah, time on market is a thing. We've talked about this forever. Is 54 days. That's 2 months of time. So sit there as a seller in your head. Think about 2 months sitting on the market before you get an offer on your house. So it's lasting a lot longer on the market. In Salem-Keizer, the supply is loosening in the mid 4-month range, and prices are holding steady. Vancouver and Clark County, their median sold price is $550K, up 1.1%, but days on market's at 63, noticeably slower than Portland. So it's weird how sometimes you'll see Vancouver and Portland kind of do opposites of each other, and right now it's doing the opposite. Vancouver generally has been booming, and then now Portland is moving fast again, while Vancouver is getting a little more breathing room. So I think like the overall thing to think about as a buyer and a seller is how specific your market is. We can look at national trends, we can look at Portland trends, we can look at Salem trends. But it really is, if you are in Wilsonville, it's much different than if you are in Newburgh. It's much different than if you are in Amity. So you really have to know your area. So don't look at the trends as much nationally or even statewide, but start to talk to an agent about your specific area, because you could, Portland, 54 days on market. Like you could have another town that's 30 days on market, or a particular house style, or townhomes might sell faster in your area than a typical single family. So it's very specific. This market is not something that your best friend's buddy who sells 2 houses a year is the agent to go with. And I'm not trying to knock them, but this is not the market to kind of be dabbling with someone who kind of dabbles in the market. This is a market that has to have a true strategic plan with a lender and an agent that is going to know what they're talking about and get you what you need, because it's different everywhere. So that's my general market watch of what's going on. So, yeah.
On that point of the, person that sells just a couple homes a year kind of thing, I feel like there's times when the market is just moving right along, and that you might not notice it as much.
Yeah.
But in this type of market, and I say this because I've ran into a few recently that I've worked with and that I've had some coworkers work with that were really new, and I was really new at one point and didn't know anything, but just knowing and seeing the negotiation that does need to go on, and not having that experience, it does stand out. Where it's
truly
like,
does. Yeah.
oh, I didn't even know that we could ask for that or do that, or that was even a possibility. And it's like, everybody's got to learn, but I wonder too at times, from just like a training standpoint, especially in this market, I feel like you tend to learn by just being in the middle of it. But this is definitely a market where experienced people will make a big difference in what you can and can't get. It stands out a lot.
Oh, for sure. No, it's more and more prevalent. And I've actually, my last couple of listing appointments, I've kind of changed the structure of how you do things. And, I think every agent goes into listing appointments like, I have the best marketing. Look at me on Instagram, look at me on social media. And it's great, but I think everyone does it. Like, I think that, you can go, no seller, I think at this time wants to hear that, like, oh, I post on social media and your house is going to get like 500 clicks and whatever. And, I'm the best, I'm an influencer type of thing. Really, sellers are now, and buyers are looking for experience. What do you provide the other agent that's on social media doesn't do. And that's, I think, experience. And that's where we kind of push our stuff, is like, this market requires, especially on the selling side with negotiations, what matters, what doesn't, what the buyers are asking for, is that a thing? Like, those sort of things, like with experience and knowledge, will save sellers and buyers thousands compared to an agent that has done 2 sales and has no clue what they're talking about. So,
Yeah.
yeah, anyways. Well, let's go into the deep dive. What do you think? So on that note, and like what we're talking about in the deep dive is buyers leverage being back. Like Cody and I, if you followed us, man, for the last few months, we've been saying that the buyers leverage is back. And I think, we're on the forefront because we're smart and we're up on it as always. But you're starting to see that nationally, of like people starting to talk about, oh, is buyers leverage back? Are buyers having more say in the market? And it's been clear to us who do this every day for months now that buyers leverage has been back for a while. Not to say that it's truly just a buyer's market, but it is. I would say it's leaning pretty heavily that way at this point.
Yeah.
If your metric is, does a buyer have a say in price, buy down, closing costs, they if that's your metric, then it's becoming a buyer's market. Having said that, sellers are not losing money hand over fist when they sell a house. We're still seeing sales to list prices around 100%, but buyers are having more of a say in the process and in the different things. Like we've seen, national inventory is up 4.6 months of supply, and days on market has ticked up to 29 days nationally. So they're basically saying that the sellers are kind of this is the first sign of sellers losing their grip in years. So what we're seeing locally is, like we've said, is there's more room for buyers to negotiate repairs, getting credits, the price, especially in the Vancouver, Portland, and Salem-Keizer areas, and in those ones that have days on market that run longer. Because sellers, whether it's right or wrong, we're seeing sellers get very impatient after 30 days. And so what comes with that is making bad decisions, or not even making bad decisions, but being ready to go, and ready to work with a buyer, whether the buyer asks for a certain amount of closing cost or rate buy downs or those sort of things. So,
Sure.
yeah, it's just I think buyers have for the last few months at the very least had a lot of leverage. We've seen anecdotally with our clients that we've had a lot of leverage with buyers. What are you seeing in this sort of realm with that?
I mean, a lot of the same stuff, for a while there, when we saw back in 22, 23, even 24, the interest rates were what really kind of stalled out a lot of buyer activity. So then I feel like that's what kind of shifted the pendulum a little bit, went from heavy on the seller side to then just like, oh, wow, this is just kind of quiet overall.
Yeah,
and then it's shifted a little bit more to evenly balanced, but maybe leaning, from what I see, a little bit in favor of a buyer, and not necessarily because it's like a buyer's getting this screaming deal and the seller's just getting cooked on anything, but you have a little bit more time to make a decision. If you have you want to get a contractor to come out and take a look at the house, you more than likely, you might have 3 or 4 days or a week to get a couple contractors out there to look at stuff on, can we do this? Whereas in previous years, you just didn't even have that time. You had to just jump on it right away.
Yeah.
So with rates staying pretty steady overall, I feel like that's a variable that is slowly kind of going away as a deterrent for the buyer, because it's now becoming more of a normal thing, like rather than this big adjustment. So the rates staying steady, I think, have kind of helped in a way to just keep it in a balanced setting. But from a seller standpoint and a buyer standpoint, I do feel like there's a good blend of both getting what they want. Because like you said, after a seller has been sitting or house has been sitting for 30 days or so, I can only imagine, unless you're just like, hey, I'm just going to sell my house, and if it takes 8 months to sell, great, we'll move when it sells. But I feel like a lot of people probably are looking at their next step and going, we want to get this thing sold so that we can move on to our next place. And a lot of buyers can kind of use that extra urgency and come to an agreement quickly with stuff too. I feel like there's the negotiation it's a lot more open rather than one-sided. So I think I think not to say it's just heavy on the seller side or on the buyer side, because we still see ones where it's been on the market for 2 days and it's a bidding war.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not as if
absolutely.
there's not still homes that are going quickly and they're priced aggressively, or it's just the home itself. And it's like some of those are still going over list price and multiple offers. And then you get others that are just sitting for a little bit,
Yeah.
and it just kind of opens up some negotiating room. So
Yeah, it's truly that way, and that's we just keep harping on it. Is your market is completely different in certain areas, certain price points within those areas. There's like you can get
yeah,
into the minute details of each particular home, each particular neighborhood, city, etc. And that's why it's so important to have someone that knows what they're doing. Do it
hmm
for you. So if you're getting these discount brokerages, you might be thinking you save a couple $1,000s here and there, but you're ultimately probably not going to make the best choices and have the agents that make the best choices. But yeah, so what do you think? Let's talk a little bit about since buyers have a say, when are you pushing buyers to do a price reduction, or what are you talking with them about a rate buy down? What are you doing in that realm with buyers?
usually, like if it's prior to them getting under contract on a home and we're in the pre-approval stage going through numbers, we'll walk through what the different options might be, whether it's buying out the mortgage insurance with the upfront payment, buying the rate down. A lot of it really comes down to what their payment comfort level is and where that matches with the home price range that they're looking at. Because some people, it's like, cool, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to buy it down. I'll just, eventually I'll refinance and get it lower. But for the people that are trying to get maybe a little bit more house than what they are comfortable with payment wise, then
Yeah,
we're looking into rate buy down and what that cost is going to be. And then we have to factor that into the price of the home and what you're going to be offering to the seller. So I love going through those numbers beforehand, because then it gives them a general idea. It might, gives you an idea too, going
yeah,
into, say you're working with a buyer and you're looking at it saying, hey, in order to make something like this work for them, they need to have the rate bought down, and it's going to cost $20,000 overall for
yeah,
everything. So then you can go into it knowing that's something that's needing to be asked for. And if it's even going to work, right? If it's been on the
yeah,
market for 2 days, you might not be able to get that if it's
yeah,
been
for
sitting for a
sure.
little bit longer. So yeah, a lot of it is just pre-approval wise, which is why I love when people are even just a few months ahead of their plan to go shopping, that they go through the pre-approval process, because then we can go through all those numbers. They can have all the questions, hopefully, over the course of that time, to
Yeah,
where by the time they actually are ready to get into it, it's not so overwhelming and they're like, oh my goodness, I've seen all this stuff online. How do we do all this?
for sure.
Can you do this? I read this forum and it tells me that there's this option, and it's scrambling and you've already put in the offer. And now it's like, well, shoot,
Yeah,
if we would have been able to go through this early on. So I prefer to go through all that stuff and see if it's even something that they are interested in and or
for
can
sure.
potentially make happen. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we've been, I think, like, I would say almost 100% of the time, our buyers have been wanting closing costs to buy down the rate, like versus
mhm,
price. I think the only times that buyers want the price is they don't know what closing cost does for uh,
yeah,
what asking for closing costs does to their rate, which ultimately affects their mortgage payment. There's very few
mhm,
times that we've had buyers that are like, I'm paying off my mortgage in 12 years, so I don't like, I need
yes,
the mortgage to be, I need the actual price of the house to be as low as it can be. Most buyers
mhm,
are like, oh, can we ask for 10,000 off this house? Like then our mortgage will be great. And I'm like, have you looked at
yeah,
how that affects your mortgage? Because
uh-huh,
if you ask for 10,000 in closing cost credit, you could get
yeah,
this, and then they're like, whoa, okay, let's go that route,
yes,
and we've
way
actually
more
had
tangible.
quite a few people offer over asking and asking for a certain amount in closing cost credit.
Mhm,
So it nets the seller the same, because
mhm,
the seller gets 15K more, but we're asking for 15K in closing cost credit.
yeah,
But it allows the buyer that flexibility to mess with their loan. So there's a bunch of different options that you can do as a buyer. That it's not just this clean cut, like ask for a lower price. There, Cody and his team and everyone else can do these like really cool programs and various things with closing costs. If you've got the cash or have the sellers give you some of that cash, they can do a lot of work with your rate to get you into a home that for a monthly payment. And that's what we were kind of talking about. I don't know if we talked about it on our live streamer today, but it's the rates are what they are, but you can buy down the rate either yourself and pay a certain amount to get it bought off. And Cody can go over like the pros and cons with you, particularly when you call, of how much you want to buy it down and whether it's worth it. But then you can also, even if you can combine it with both, you can pay down some of it and then ask the seller to pay down some of it. So there's just a lot more unique, not unique, a lot more, I guess you'd say outside the box thinking to get people in the game. Sellers are more willing to do that, and offer that to buyers, especially if their net is about the same, of what they're going to get. So buyers, you do have leverage. It's back. It's been back for a while, and don't just think that, oh, rates are at 6.7. This sucks. I'm never going to be able to afford a house. It really, like, talk to Cody about what your options are, because you may be surprised that he might say, hey, if you ask for a seller for this, you can get a rate, at this, like, and it could be a very positive chat versus a negative one. So,
yeah. And one thing too, that I think doesn't get talked about enough, and it's probably my fault, I should be screaming this a little bit louder, is when you're buying a home that's, say, under $400,000, which, depending on where you're at, that might be unachievable, or that might be there's houses everywhere. When you start to get down where your loan amount is lower like that, the interest rate surprisingly makes way less of an impact than you think it would. Because I've had people, and it's a lower price, call it $250, where they're like, okay, well, yeah, when rates come down, to here, we'll refinance and get that lower. And I'll run numbers for them just to show them, like, hey, don't put all your eggs in this basket, because with your loan amount, rates come down a point and a half, and you're going to save $75. It's not anything crazy that people think it's going to be. Obviously, once you get up into the 800, 900, $1 million loan amount, 0.5% is going to be a massive difference. But once you start to get down lower, I think there's a little misconception there too with some price ranges, that the rates are just so much higher and it kind of kills everything. It's like, well, it doesn't really. Yeah, sure, it could be better. But if we're comparing a normal market, call it 4.5% to 5%, if we want to say that that's the general norm, where kind of maybe the general expectation is that we're going to hopefully eventually get back to. Well, you're talking about 1.5 difference to get down to 5. That we'd be thrilled with 5, but even then, I don't even know that you're going to want to refinance at that point. Maybe you probably will, but it's like it's not changing your life of $500-$600 a month in payment. So sometimes I think there is a lot of that misconception of waiting, and it's somehow magically going to improve everybody's lives. It's going to help a little bit, but
for sure,
not always.
And it can be helped. Like, if you want that rate, like, it's not that those rates are out of your grasp. It's, that's the standard rate, and you can buy that rate down, so it's not the end of the world. Hearing those rates is not something you should be kind of pushed away from. It's definitely something to talk to a lender. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it's, it's too much to buy down the rate, and it's just never going to happen in this world. But that's why you talk to a lender to say, hey, I know these rates aren't the greatest, but what could we do in a perfect world, and what does that look like? So definitely worth talking to someone that knows what they're doing. Don't, like, in my opinion, don't look at the rates and say, immediately say this is a bummer, it's not worth it. There's lots of buyers in the market right now that have talked to people like Cody that are ready to go. They know that they can buy down the rate to X amount, or they know they can ask the seller to buy down the rate, or ask for a price drop, or a combination of both. So it's definitely not something to be discouraged by, seeing rates kind of fluctuate in the 6.5, 6.7. It's like, you can figure it out, like, if you want to. So and maybe you can't, but it's worth a shot, right?
Absolutely. Always.
Good. Well, that was a good show. I think we kind of combined the buyer's corner today, which was basically what we just said. Do all that stuff. Talk to a lender. Those are all your options. There's a ton of options out there for buyers. Sellers, don't be discouraged if your house sits on the market. It is not the end of the world. Buyers are still buying your house for pretty much what you're listing it at. If you are desperate to sell, it's one thing. If you're planning on selling, it's plan right now so that you can be ready to go and maybe sit on the market for a little bit and not have to panic. So Yeah, I don't
Hmm.
think it's. I think overall, I still think it's a healthy market. I don't think it. I don't feel anything happening that's like, are we seeing anything crazy? So I just stay the course. Talk to someone who knows
I
what they're doing, right?
I agree. I think it's about as normal as it's been for a while.
Yeah, because
Whether that feels normal or not,
a great indicator is
it
like you
is.
said, the buyers. We still have bidding wars in some cases. So
Hmm.
it's not like this is just like a market that is just stagnant and done. It's you put
Yeah.
the right house on there with the right price, and there's people buying. Like
Hmm.
it's just being good about that, pricing it well, not overshooting your the mark and thinking that you're going to
Hmm.
test the market out. Because if you test the market out, you're going to lose that test. So
Yes,
yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
I agree.
If you guys
I
haven't
love it.
already, like and subscribe to Venture with Joe and Cody. We're here every week to give you guys some tips and tricks and everything else that's going on in the market. So if you are in the market, if you're not in the market, you probably don't want to listen to us. If you are thinking about being in the market, this is the show you need to pay attention to, because I think that you will get a lot out of it, and then you will come out saving some money, I think.
Yeah. Education
Okay.
is power or something
I
like
know.
that. Don't
Is
they
it?
say
Yeah.
that? Don't they say
I don't
that?
know. I think
Knowledge is
isn't.
power. Knowledge is
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's true.
Education is overrated.
I don't think they say that. I
That's
don't
what they
think they
say.
say that at all.
Maybe not.
But okay, well, until next week, man, we will chat with you soon.
Sounds good. Have a good
Okay, see
week.
ya.